Hello and welcome back to our final Camtasia video lecture for Chapter 3. Hopefully you have your study guide in front of you because we're going to go through the last problem on a Chapter 3 study guide. Deals with a schedule of costs of goods manufactured and cost of goods sold. Now, in your textbook, if you have your textbook available, I'm looking at page 121. On page 121, there's an exhibit 3-8 that shows you how to put this together. Okay? There's no sense of us, reinventing the wheel, so to speak, because it was already done for us. So as I go through this, I'm using that as kind of like my template to create these two reports, or these two schedules rather. If you are not using Connect and you want to do your homework in Word or in Excel, I'm fine with that. Just try and make it look neat. So as I go through this and demonstrate how to put together these schedules, be cognizant of how I'm making the spreadsheet look. That way it just makes it easier on me to grade. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is our cost of goods manufactured. Okay. Oh. Okay. Usually helps if you can type too. Okay, cost of goods manufactured. So remember, the first thing, this statement gives us identifies three costs for us. All our manufacturing costs: direct material, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say direct materials. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so the first thing I need for my direct materials is I need to know, I'm going to indent a little bit, what is my beginning balance of, or my beginning raw materials inventory. Okay, I'm just going to abbreviate a little bit. So on the study guide it says, hey, your beginning raw materials is $12,000. Cool. The next thing I need to add to that is how much purchases of raw material. Purchases of raw materials. So I can look at my study guide and it tells me that I purchased raw materials of $30,000. Well, if I take together my purchase of raw materials and my beginning balance, that gives me raw materials that are available. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add these. So I'm just going to click auto sum, boop. And then again, if you're using Excel, do me a favor, give me an underline here. See how I put an underline in this cell? That just tells me that this and this, or let me rephrase that, my 42,000 is a sum or some sort of mathematical answer to the top two, right? But we know that I needed to add those. So I added 12,000 plus 30,000 gives me 42,000. That's what's available. Okay. Now I need to subtract out my ending RM. Okay. Well, if I look at the study guide, they tell me that my ending raw materials is 18,000. Okay. So I'm going to put another underline and I'm going to show that I'm subtracting 42,000 minus 18,000. Gives me 24,000. Okay. But I'm not done yet. Because notice in the problem they said, oh, by the way, Indirect materials included in manufacturing overhead is $5,000. Okay, so that means in this raw materials inventory account, it's a combination of direct and indirect. The problem specified that 5,000 of these total raw materials is indirect, right? Remember, all the indirect materials get applied through manufacturing overhead. So I need to subtract this out. So I'm going to say subtract indirect material of 5,000. Okay, so I'm going to put my line here. I'm going to come over here to column C, and I'm going to say equals 24,000 minus 5,000 is 19,000. Okay, that's my manufacturing, that's my direct materials, the 19,000. The next thing I'm going to put in is my direct labor. Okay, and if we look at the problem, they tell us that, hey, direct labor is $58,000. Boom, done. Okay, then I need to put in the manufacturing overhead that was applied to WIP. So I'm going to say MOH applied. And my problem tells me that I applied $87,000 of manufacturing overhead. If I add these up, my 19, my 58, my 87, look what I'm adding. I'm adding direct materials, direct labor, and the manufacturing overhead that was applied. I get $164,000. Guess what that $164,000 is? That is my total manufacturing cost. Okay, this is the amount that flows into WIP, or this is the amount that flows into work in process. Okay, so from here I need to look at my WIP account. So I'm going to say, okay, what's my beginning WIP? Well, I just need to look at my problem in the study guide, and it tells me, oh, by the way, beginning inventory balance for WIP, or work in process, is $56,000. Okay, I'm going to add these two. The 164, which is the total manufacturing cost, to the beginning balance of WIP, that gives me $220,000. I next need to subtract out ending WIP. Well, what's my ending WIP? Well, I don't know. If I look at my problem, ending WIP is $65,000. $65,000. So I need to subtract this. So I'm going to take my $220,000, which is my WIP that's available throughout the entire month, minus my ending, minus my ending WIP balance. That gives me $155,000. Guess what this $155,000 is? This is my cost of goods manufactured. Okay? Now, since I know how much I manufactured, what the cost of goods manufactured are, I can go and figure out what my cost of goods sold are. Okay, so how do I figure that? Well, the first thing I need to do is figure out what's my beginning finished goods balance. Right? So on the study guide, I go to my inventories, and it tells me the beginning balance of finished goods is $35,000. Okay, To that, I need to add the cost of goods manufactured. Well, guess what? I already know what that is. That's the 155,000 that I previously calculated. So I'm going to add these two, and I end up with $190,000. Okay, this $190,000 are goods available for sale. Okay, once I have my goods available for sale, guess what I can do now? I can subtract out my ending finished goods balance. To figure that out, it's a plug number, meaning I have the information. On the study guide, under the inventories, it says finished goods ending inventory is $42,000. Okay, so I'm going to subtract that from my total goods that are available for sale. That gives me $148,000. Now, this right here is my unadjusted cost of goods sold. Okay, we have an issue. We have under applied overhead, meaning we applied less than what we actually incurred. So we need to adjust our cost of goods sold. Because we under applied, that means our cost of goods sold is too low. So we need to add under applied overhead. And I'm going to do it this way, plus under applied. Okay, and I'm going to come over here, and this is just a note, so I'm going to make it yellow. If we would have over applied, meaning we would have applied too much, that means our unadjusted cost of goods sold would be too high. We need to subtract the under applied. So I'm going to put this in here as a note, minus any over applied. Okay, so now you know, because in this problem we have an underapplied manufacturing overhead, we need to add that underage to cost of goods sold. If we over apply, that means our cost of goods sold is too high. We need to subtract the over applied. So I'm going to add the $4,000. That's what they told us. That's how much we under applied. They already did the math for us. They already looked at the manufacturing overhead account and said, oh, here's what we actually incurred, here's what we implied. We applied $4,000 too little. Okay, so I'm going to add that in, and I'm going to put my mark, and I'm just going to subtract, or I'm sorry, I'm going to add 148,000 plus 4,000 gives me 152,000. Guess what this is? This is my adjusted cost of goods sold. Okay? Okay, so we're done with the chapter, right? We're done with chapter 2, we're done with chapter 3. At this point, you can go ahead and work on your connect problems, or if you're going to use Excel, do the book problems that are assigned. After you have watched this and you start working on your homework, I'm going to send out an email, and I'm going to kind of put it out here. If you want to meet Sunday evening, meaning I'll set up a big blue button session, you'll be at your homes, we'll all log on at a specific time, and you can ask me questions via the internet, but it'll be live time. If you want to do that after you watch the videos and after you gave homework a shot and you're still having questions, I would be more than happy to do that. If you want to do that, shoot me a text and say, hey, I would like that and I'll attend. Okay. Let's say 8 o'clock on Sunday. Okay. And if 8 o'clock doesn't work for you, text me, let me know. Maybe we can adjust it. This by no means is mandatory. It's just to help you talk about the material, work through the problems, and it gives you an opportunity to talk to me before the homework's due next week. And it gives us ample time. Okay? So, good luck. Go ahead and get your chapter 3 either text problems done or connect, whichever you decide on. Don't forget to turn in your study guide that we just worked on. You finished it up, just bring it to class and hand it in. Don't forget the in-class assignments from week 1. You have enough to finish those. Turn those into me next week when we meet, and next week we'll jump into chapter 3. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please text me and let me know what you want to do about the Sunday session. Okay? Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.